After all the crap I've been getting lately about not looking at people, finally someone is looking at me. 2 people, actually, and they feel the same way about the sight. I feel very differently about each reaction, however. The response from my revenant is to be expected. They love me and they are in awe of me by nature. It is a comforting and happy feeling, one that makes me want to love them back. They are so pure, so pleasant, so mine. Vitamin is mine, my beautiful daughter for as long as she wishes to be. Margaret is mine, my sweet and earnest little genius. Theodora is mine, no matter how much she strays, and she will always have a place at my side whenever she desires it. Yes, I know I forced these feelings on them. Yes, I know that's wrong, that's fake, and that I will destroy anyone who tries to do the same to anyone I care about. But the artificial, forcibly imposed source of that affection doesn't make them any less comforting to me. The disturbing implications are a secondary issue, one that contrasts but does not lessen the love. So ultimately, warmth and appreciation fill me when Margaret calls me beautiful, even though I can expect no less. Yet when Penelope feels the same, that is. I don't know what that is. I didn't believe that she would look at me with anything more than the clinical, barely passing interest she tends to show every part of the reality I live when I describe it to her. She wants to be an animancer herself, a position that we both know is unlikely to be healthy or wise. Still, she strives for it, and to her my whole world was nothing but a stepping stone on her path to power. Which I was okay with. She didn't treat me like a freak or a monster, she didn't tell the guard or the Templars. Instead she helped me cover for my mistakes, distracted the team when I ran over to grab every soul we slew, and saved my life over and over. She's a callous bitch, but she's my callous bitch. Not in the same way the Revenants are mine, but things were okay. They were comfy. They were fine as they were. I was sort of hoping they'd go back to that when Penelope saw me. I thought Penelope would take the same clinical stance as always, see how utterly inhuman I am, and fall out of love. Ah yes, my friend Vita, the tentacle eyeball. Never mind about trying to fuck that. Yet that is not what happened. When she peered past the shell I thought she loved and we actually locked eyes, her emotions actually magnified. I don't have the time to process any of this before she and Vitamin emerge from the side room after securing the man I brought. Immediately, she starts staring at me again. I can't believe she's staring at me. Actually at me. What do I do? In a moment of confused panic I break the stare off by waving a tentacle her way. An amused, twitching smile invades her expression and after only a brief delay she waves back. The moment passes, and so does the intense weight of her attention. She approaches, pulling a chair up next to me and sitting down, leaning forward so she's eye level not with my head, but the soul in my belly. So, she says to me, carefully keeping the overwhelming emotion bubbling through her out of her voice. Tentacle eyeball. I see what you mean about being similar to the Mistwatcher more than ever, now. So to say hello, do I, She holds out a hand as if to shake. Didn't I tell her before? I know I did. Still, I respond with an amused shrug and pass a tentacle through it. I can only touch myself and souls, I say. The disappointment in Penelope is real, yet she reacts as if she expected the answer. Already, she's plotting something. So what allows you to touch yourself? Penelope asks slowly. It seems like an awfully arbitrary distinction. Your body is made of Are you perhaps actually touching the veins of soul lining throughout your body? No, I explain, using my tendrils to poke around at some exposed skin. I didn't used to have those anyway. I'm definitely touching my body. Do you think there might be some way for me to touch other things? I ask the obvious question and feel her slide another piece of her plan into place. Damn it. She's supposed to make plots for me, not about me. What is this for? I don't see why it wouldn't be possible, Penelope confirms, but I don't have the faintest idea how it works. Certainly something to look into. Assuming you'd like to be able to touch other things, of course. I would. Of course I would. The less I have to rely on meat the better. I nod to tell her as such, and another piece falls into place for her. I guess it's okay if her plot revolves around helping me learn cool tentacle tricks. Well, I would be more than happy to investigate and see if we can figure out a way to make that work, Penelope offers. As well as any other ideas you might have on improvements. I can see that. Your own plans for that body substantially outstrip my former ambition. I blink. She's back to normal. Okay, that's good. Don't know what she means, though. My plans? You're not doing it on purpose, she mumbles, mostly to herself. Vita. You are far more than a natural animancer. What you're doing to yourself, the eyes but also inside, it's biomancy. You are changing yourself from within, far more than a normal human enhancing themselves via a powerful soul could manage. I frown, thinking about that. My initial reaction is to argue no, I'm just pulling myself around with my soul rather than my muscles mostly. But Penelope is a genius biomancer, and she probably knows what she's talking about. What sort of things am I doing to myself? I ask, not sure what I want her to say. Well, that's the thing. A lot of it is fairly standard, like the natural improvements to durability I told you to expect eventually. A lot of the rest, I don't know. It's truly fascinating. I've never seen biomantic mana formations that look like this. They are biomancy, that much I can be certain of. The basic structure is comprehensible to me, but on a whole it is far more complicated than any spell I know. It's a full-blown talent in its own right, a powerful one. Your body is doing something to itself and I don't know what. But I am certainly excited to find out. I would love to investigate, even help it along as much as I can if you want me to. I guess whether or not I want it helped along depends on whether or not I like what it's doing. I hedge. Could you not see this before the soul stuff? Well, that's the interesting part. These veins of soul flowing through your body, they are not just animantic foam musculature. They are mana channels, delivering your... She trails off for a moment, suddenly coming to the realization. Same color blue, she mumbles to herself. Would it make the atmosphere? No, there's no way to test that, not without a kinemancer of impeccable precision. Penelope, I don't know what any of that means, I answer, squirming uncomfortably. Look, do you need me for anything right now? You guys figured out the soul sight spell and that's cool. Does that mean you have any work for me to do or not? A flash of frustrated disappointment fills my friend but she shakes her head. You are welcome to go, we have plenty of biomancy problems to solve. Apologies for the fit of fervor, Vita. I just feel as though I certainly understand you a lot better. You are actually quite good at eye contact, aren't you? I scratch my cheek with a tentacle, embarrassed despite myself. Well, it's much easier to see emotions with my core pointed in the right direction, I explain. I can usually figure it out, but my directional soul sight is a lot more precise. Yes. Precise, Penelope mutters to herself, eyes peering deeply within me. I watch her stare as if at a gorgeous vista, like the awe I first felt when I gazed beyond the confines of Skyhope's walls. She gazes as if seeing a world opening up, a beauty unlike anything her life had ever previously comprehended, and it's at me. I don't know if I've ever felt this self-conscious before. She continues to stare until it's finally too much for me to handle. Squirming and blushing, I cover my core in my own tentacles, using them as a writhing wall against further examination. This doesn't seem to make Penelope any less interested, but it does make her snap out of her fugue and recognize my discomfort. I feel her chide herself immediately, a spark of self-directed fury passing in an instant before she primly smiles as if none of it happened. Well, this is truly an impressive spell, she says, trying and failing to mask the source of her emotion, but we should get back to work. Margaret, Theodora, we have much to plan. What are you going to do, Vita? You are, I don't know. I stammer, still flustered, still hiding in my cocoon of tendrils. I know. Vitamin announces happily. Take me to see Grandma and Grandpa. Theodora and Margaret and Penelope finished my cool girl tats. I'm not going to be detected as a creepy magical construct. Probably. Penelope glances over my way with obvious disapproval, but Theodora shrugs. You'll have to test it eventually, the Metamancer says, genuinely approving of taking the Revenant outside. May as well get her some fresh air. Or, she likes vitamin. My little girl must have grown on her. Ugh, I wish I had my tattoos back, Margaret complains. They are my tattoos and always were, Theodora snaps. Yeah, I know, Margaret grumbles. Sorry. It just doesn't feel that way. It's a Nora thing. But, I mean, if we can spare some of the metal. I think we will need it for the current project, Penelope insists. What we are doing is not something we can skimp on power for. Of course, yeah, Margaret sighs. We'll see what we can do, but I think I've asked Mom for enough metal for now, I say. I hope she takes it easy. Although she probably won't. I guess I'm off, then. Come on, Vitamin. Heck yeah. Vitamin cheers. I get to see the city for the first time. She hops up on my shoulders and I chuckle a bit, giving her a friendly soul tickle before heading up the stairs. It's not a very long walk between the lab and my family's home anymore, which is very convenient. Me again, I announce, rapping on the front door. And I brought someone special. Rowan opens the door, jumping back a little as he sees Vitamin laughing playfully on my shoulders. He quickly ushers me inside. Should you be having her? You know? He hisses softly. Sure. I say. Some really smart dead people think it'll be fine. The kids swarm out from around the house and I lift Vitamin off my shoulders and place her on the ground. Now you be good, Vitamin. Normal people are very fragile, so don't accidentally break anyone's neck or something, okay? I give her some crushed delicious soul dust, knowing that she will of course not harm a fly if I don't want her to. Her soul drinks it greedily, apparently quite eager to grow. So I crush another shard for her. I can't let my poor zombie daughter go hungry, can I? If occasionally tossing food at and otherwise ignoring my child isn't parenting, I don't know what is. Speaking of, Lynn grabs me from behind and lifts me up into a hug. Well, hello again. We get to see you twice before you gallivant off into the wilderness again, do we? That's quite a treat. Mum. I'm just busy. I yelp, kicking my legs. You don't have to worry or anything, I kick Forest Monster butt. Oh? Do you now? Let's see. She drags me past the gaggle of children into an empty part of the house before dropping me, leaning back, and earning herself Mother of the Year by tossing a knife at me. I jump in surprise a little, but catch it by the handle before even turning around to face her. It was just a slow lob, nothing that could have ever actually hit me. What's this for? I ask. Rowan told me you've been picking fights with powerful people, Lynn says, all smiles as she draws another knife. I'm ashamed to have let you develop such bad habits at such a young age. Do you really think I'm going to feel safe seeing you leave the city when you do things like that? I scowl a bit. I'm one of the strongest people in the guild now, Mum. Can't you feel that? Sure, Lynn answers casually, hopping on the balls of her feet. My danger sense tells me to shit my britches and run until I jump off the edge. But I'll believe it when I see it. Let's fight. Fight? Fight, Lynn. Why the fuck would I ever want to do that? Lynn is Lynn. I don't want to hurt her. Is she just feeling antsy being cooped up in a nice home for once? I'm not going to fight you, I grumble. Why not, kiddo? Lynn asks immediately, flashing shit-eating grin. I scowl. I'm not a kiddo. I don't know, it takes a pretty small kid to not even be able to beat up a grandmother. Little baby kiddo. I don't want to hurt you, I say, narrowing my eyes. Well, good news. Lynn answers. Kids can't hurt me. You've got nothing to worry about. Okay, maybe I'll just hurt her a little bit. Lynn? Rowan asks, hesitantly stepping into the room. I think you shouldn't. No, it's fine, I growl, cutting him off. Let's spar, Mum. Oh, fuck, please don't use the real knot. Rowan doesn't get a chance to finish his sentence, because I'm already lunging in for a stab. Obviously I pull my blow on Lynn, not wanting to hurt her or myself. I'm not moving as fast as I can, I'm not stabbing as directly at a vital as I might otherwise. Yet when my mom flashes me a contemptuous grin and easily steps to the side, I start to wonder if I'm about to once again get a lesson on arrogance. Even with the way my soul's core grows much denser than a human's does, I have significantly surpassed the size of my mother's soul. Lynn is powerful, extremely powerful by most metrics, really, but I suspect if I really put my back into it I could rip her from her flesh with only minimal trouble. That is the skill I am best at, the skill that I use most often, and my most devastating offensive capability. As I make another lunge, which Lynn sidesteps by barely an inch without seeming the slightest bit worried, I can't help but be a little tempted to use that power. I don't, of course. This is about landing a hit on her, and she is trying to prove that I can't. I'm not interested in just sitting back and letting someone walk over me. I have recently reached the next stage in what I sort of think of as my life cycle, considering that the first step was hatching from a soul egg. I am a bit proud of my advancement, happy I finally get to stop using my hideous, inefficient muscles for everything. I want to prove my superiority. I want to beat her. To my annoyance, however, it is clear that Lynn is very, very good at dodging. So obvious. She taunts stepping around another stab and punching me just under the ribs. I barely feel it, and try to grab her with my free hand only to watch her leap out of the way again, cackling all the while. Damn it. I should be stronger than her. It doesn't help that I have much less practice using a knife than I do with using my spear. Lynn doesn't even feel that fast, it's just that she seems to always be barely fast enough to avoid whatever it is I'm doing. I could maybe surprise her by suddenly using my full speed, but of course then I would have to go see Penelope to get my body unbroken again. Plus, I think there's another secret here. Despite how much I care for her, Lynn and I don't exactly talk a lot and I don't even know what exactly her talent is. Or, as I'm starting to suspect, what her talents are. The longer we fight the more I'm sure she has two separate ones. One of them she keeps on a constant low purr, ramping it slightly up in power every time I lunge for her. I don't know what it is, other than clearly not being offensive. The other just turns on and off, and I'm pretty sure that's her speed talent. Whenever she makes a little burst of movement, that one flares. The problem is that, even though I know this in advance, I don't have any idea what to do about it. She's using both talents at once, which Capita never did, and both of them seem to be useful in a brawl. She's not trying to stab me, despite the knife in her hand. If anything, she's using it as a handicap, giving her one less arm to punch with. I am still getting my butt kicked. You're trying to teach me that no matter how strong I am, I lose to someone whose talent is specific to the current situation, I deduce. No, trying to teach you that you are slow as shit and I'm better than you, Lynn answers immediately. Rowan facepalms, and I try to stab my mother again. Lynn laughs, dancing around me. Our fight is indoors, and the room is not very large, yet she always seems to have exactly as much space as she needs. Can I box her in somehow? Get her into a corner? I start directing my thrusts, encouraging her to dodge closer and closer to the edge of the room. The moment I think she's cornered, though, she just vaults over me, sticking her tongue out at me as I track her through the air. Quit trying to fight me like I'm a monster, Lynn says. You know I have a brain too, right? I'm not going to move without a plan. She dashes in for the first time and I jump back in surprise. Now all of a sudden, I'm the one cornered. It looks like she's going to punch me in the face, but she feints and brings up the knife instead, the blade barely kissing against the skin of my neck without drawing blood. Dead, she tells me, bursting backwards before I can stab her back. Does that count? I ask, grinding my teeth. Because if so. I burst forward again, lunging for another stab at bringing my tentacles into the mix as well. To my surprise, Lynn seems to notice and jump backwards, but I press the attack and soon the only place she can dodge within the small room is inside my range. She avoids 5 of the 8 tentacles I try to grab her with, but 3 wrap around her and squeeze lightly. Dead, I hiss back. I'm surprised you dodged any. Lynn shudders, pawing at her belly as if trying to rub some warmth into it as I let her go. Danger sense, remember? I can't see any of what you do, but if I listen to my instincts I can feel something is coming at me. So, point in your favor, I'll grant you. But you still haven't touched me. I scowl, tossing my knife to the side and flexing my fingers. Fine, I growl, right before feeling the snap in my right leg as I lunge at Lynn as fast as I can. I'm not a knife fighter, as much as I should probably learn to use them a bit since I have them as a backup weapon. But ultimately, if I am going full power, I would rather not accidentally kill my mother with a blade. Her eyes go wide for an instant as I close the distance far faster than I have up to this point, but her surprise is not quite enough for me to capitalize on. I swipe at her, miss, then break my other leg, performing an instant change in direction. Penelope won't be happy, but she'll deal with it. I wrap the brakes with tentacles as a makeshift splint, bearing down on her again and very, very nearly catching her. She was surprised at my speed before but isn't now, bumping up the power in her own talent to compensate. That's fine by me. She's not moving at levels beyond my perception, and I don't need to keep up with her perfectly. I just need a particular kind of opening. If our family actually owned anything, everything in this room would have been destroyed by our engagement as we blast around, me always on the offensive. Rowan has been functionally forced out, he and many of the kids peeking hesitant pairs of eyeballs around the doorframe, trying to avoid becoming collateral damage. There's one more reason I dropped my knife, and I'm just waiting for Lynn to give me the chance to take advantage of it. She's right. She's not a beast, and I need to treat her as someone thinking a few steps ahead. If I can't dismantle her soul, I will dismantle her plan instead. What's politics like? I had once asked Penelope. Our team had been walking through the forest silently for a few hours, the monsters either fleeing in fear from me or dying instantly whenever they tried to engage. I was thoroughly bored and feeling safe enough to start a conversation. Penelope turned to me slowly, her languid glare and pattering soul indicating she was still a bit miffed about me telling the whole team that she had a crush on me. Still, she deigned to answer. Hiverok dropped an estimated 10,000 or so eggs on us, she said, which sounded like a complete non sequitur, but this was Penelope, so I knew she was going somewhere with this. The drops were all in groups, yes? About 50 to a couple hundred eggs per group. According to reports, our best guess as to what happens the moment those eggs start to hatch is that every single one of the newborn Vrithitso immediately tries to kill and eat all of the other ones. As soon as I finished reading that, I thought to myself, damn. And here I've been trying to go to the forest to avoid politics. I blinked in confusion, but Nora immediately busted out laughing. Along with Matteo, of all people, though his hissy monster laugh seemed to kill the mood for everyone else. I don't get it, I said. I know, Penelope answered flatly. But despite the laughter, I do not at all mean it as a joke. Politics is about seeing how much aggressive cannibalism you can get away with in your path to power. Figuratively, I mean. While I would not be terribly surprised to learn of a noble engaging in little cannibalism, I do not personally know of any. That's good? I hedged. Penelope sighed. Yes, Vita, the fact that our government does not openly engage in literal cannibalism is good. Anyway, on the subject of specifically Vulca politics, I would have to describe the three major factions as the Royalists, the Church, and everyone else, really. Let's call them the mercantile faction, although they are, well, we are, I suppose, but if anyone asks, I'm a Royalist. They are only a faction insofar as being united by a common hatred of the other two and a general desire to leech specific powers from each of them. For example, the Church de facto controls the entire metal trade due to the religious significance of metal. Because it is the duty of the Templars to prevent a perception event, and perception events can be caused by an overabundance of metal in a single place, the Church has decided they therefore possess a divine mandate to control every single gram of metal on the market and micromanage who is allowed to buy any given amount of it. And if this sounds like an open power grab more so than an actual devotion to a deity, that's because it very certainly is. And yet somehow the audacious bastards actually get away with it. Nora scowled, but didn't respond. But you're asking about politics in general, aren't you? Penelope continued. The crux of the metaphor is thus, political power is finite. To acquire it, you must necessarily take it from others. The more people with power, the less power everyone has. It is possible to increase the maximum available quantity of political power, but to do so you have to actually contribute to society, and that tends to be rather more difficult than simply eating your rivals. Fortunately, or unfortunately depending on your proclivities, rather than soul-rending teeth, politicians fight with schemes. To defeat a rival and claim their power, you must understand what they want, how they intend to get what they want, and how to make their methods of gaining what they want destroy them rather than help them. Considering the degree to which Vrithitso are single-mindedly obsessed with constantly eating every living thing they come across, I imagine the pleasure they get from the act of consumption may very nearly be comparable with that a politician gets from twisting a former rival into a pawn by correctly anticipating and manipulating their actions with indirect levers that cannot possibly be traced back to their original source. I blinked. Any chance you could maybe repeat all that, but exclusively using words that a homeless street kid could understand? Penelope smiled a little. If you and someone else both want the same chunk of bread, Vita, true victory is not found in taking it from them, but in learning how to make them give it to you. She quickly glanced over at our trio of revenants. Generally without using animancy. My fight with Lynn continues, my attacks getting more and more reckless as I push to get my hands on her. Going barehanded against someone with a knife tends to be a poor decision, but Lynn has been completely refusing to cut me, leaving her as the one with the handicap. At least until suddenly and without warning, this changes. I'm not stupid. I'll admit that I usually don't understand people very well, but a large part of that is me not putting any effort into it. Well, I shouldn't say that. It's hard to put effort into it, harder than it is to put effort into most things, and I feel very little desire to try, even if I know it would be helpful. But I'm still clever, I can still read emotions, and I'm still a trained con woman. Lynn makes a jab towards my hand with her knife in order to force me to abandon the attack, and I barely avoid grinning in triumph. My recklessness is real, but it's calculated. I want her to think I'm taking advantage of the fact that she won't attack with her knife, but what I actually want is for her to commit to a defense with her knife so I can capitalize on it in a way I know she won't expect. I don't abandon my attack, doubling down and letting her blade impale my palm. From there I grab the hand holding the knife in my own, and it's over. She tries to squirm and escape, but while she may be faster than me, I am much, much stronger. Despite the difference in size, I force her to the ground. There, I hiss in triumph. Fooled you. Got you. I win. Lynn, breathing hard, glances at my hand before back up to my grinning face. That you did, she admits coolly. Was it worth it? I blink in surprise, not entirely understanding the question. Was what worth it? Well, you beat me in a fight, Lynn says again, and she doesn't feel like she thinks she's lost at all. It took 10 minutes of your time, plus a hand, and therefore however much effort it will be to get that healed. Assuming you don't start to bleed out. I extract my hand from her knife, blocking off the blood vessels so my hand is barely stained red from the initial stab and nothing else. I flex my fingers. I'll be fine, I insist, declining to mention that I also broke both of my legs. So you'll be fine, Lynn says. But was it worth it? Did you really have to take this fight? I goaded you into this. You didn't want to, but it didn't take much pushing to change that. And what do you get out of this? The satisfaction of knowing you can beat up your mother? I scowl. So, this was the lesson, I mumble. I thought you were trying to teach me to fight better. Lynn shrugs, getting up off the floor. Well, if I did that, that's great too. But what Rowan and I are really concerned about is more that you keep getting into fights in the first place. You've killed 13 people since Angeline, hun. That we know about. Have you thought about that at all? I know Rowan wants to give you the moral spiel, and I can't say I'm super happy about you using your talent that way, but I get that sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. I've killed people on jobs before. I've hidden bodies, I've stabbed folks that probably don't deserve it. What I want to know is how much that's been eating you up inside, Vita. I want to know why you keep doing it. I want to know if it was worth it. I swallow, chewing a little on my lower lip. I didn't have a choice, I say quietly. Nora was going to forcibly take me into the church, or at least tell them about me. I would die, Mum. The Templars already tried to kill me once, they're just looking for an excuse. Lynn nods. What about the group that killed Angeline? A chill settles over the whole house, even the youngest of us icy with fury. Yes, I answer firmly. That was worth it. If anything, I should have killed them sooner. Lynn nods again. And the group with Capita? She asks. The whole fight with Capita, really? Was it worth it? I open my mouth and almost say yes, again. Of course it was worth it. I had good reasons for what I was doing and the men I killed all pulled weapons on me. I just made a point of thinking about how I'm not stupid, however, so I think about it first instead. No, I conclude reluctantly. It all made sense at the time, but in retrospect I could have avoided the fight entirely. I nearly died fighting Capita and didn't actually get anything out of it other than a bit of information, which wasn't worth it. Lynn walks up close to me, patting me on top of the head. Okay. That's all I wanted to say, really. Don't forget why you became a hunter in the first place, kiddo. What? I became a hunter to eat monster souls and become strong. I'm not a kiddo, I insist again. Lynn smiles. Go back to your friend Penelope, she says. There's a hole in your hand, honey. I look down at my palm. Oh yeah. Nodding, I exit my home, lost in thought. Most of my life, the question of is a fight worth it has always been the same as can I win this fight, the answer to which was almost always no, so every other aspect of a fight was obviously not worth it. I lacked power, so I could not fight. Now I have power, so I do fight. And in the forest, that's a strategy that works pretty well. Monsters need killing, and if we can kill them without being hurt we generally always should. But that's not at all how people work, is it? There are other ways to deal with people, none of which I'm good at, but it's also simply much more difficult to know if I can win the fight. Monsters are stupid, so power is everything. People are not stupid, so power is just one of many tricks in the toolbox that can be used to hurt me or the people I care about. I know this, I'm just bad at it. I have no experience thinking this way. I had been considering avoiding Penelope in order to try and minimize the awkwardness of whatever is going on there. That's not going to cut it though, is it? Between how often I get myself hurt and how much I need the help of someone that can actually think about this stuff with any competence, I kind of need her, don't I? The realization doesn't rankle as much as I thought it would, at least. I'm okay with relying on Penelope, even if she can be weird sometimes. I sigh, opening up our lab and heading downstairs. Time to get another rant on why I shouldn't be breaking my own legs, I guess.